Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the launch of the Elizabeth Casson's Trust third cohort in its mentoring programme. We are recording today's session, but don't worry, you won't be seen. We're going to give everybody an opportunity to ask any questions or that they may have at the end of the session. But if you have a question as we're going through the agenda, then please just drop that into the Q&A box that you'll see at the bottom of your screen. So without any further ado, let's move on and get things going. Can we have the next slide, please, Pam? Thank you. For those of you perhaps are a little bit new to Elizabeth Casson Trust, their main charitable purpose is to advance the profession of occupational therapy. When we were talking to the OTs that they represent, they told us that they see mentoring as a vital part of investing in their profession and in each other, as well as themselves. So it seemed like a really important thing to start to create a mentoring program and see the benefits of those things. From our very first pilot and then a second cohort, we've really seen that this is the case. Feedback from those taking part has been very positive, with really clear benefits for both mentees and mentors. And we'll find a bit more out about that as we go through the agenda. But you can also see some of the results and feedback from earlier cohorts on the Elizabeth Casson Trust's YouTube channel. Today we're going to cover, as you can see, some of the benefits of mentoring. We're going to give you some tips about how to make mentoring work. You'll get access to our Good Mentoring Guide, which has been specifically put together for this programme. How to ensure you get the most out of mentoring by really giving us the right data to help us create really good matches. And matches that also align to what you want, both as a mentor and a mentee. Submitting a strong profile is actually one of the most important things that you can do at this stage. We'll tell you a little bit about the next steps, and as I said earlier, we'll get an opportunity to ask any questions at the end, and you'll be able to question myself, Naomi Hankinson, who's the ECT's mentoring champion, and of course Dee Christie, who is the chair of ECT. So if we could move on to the next slide, please. I'm going to have a little chat actually with Dee here. As I said, Dee is a very experienced trustee, also a very experienced mentor, and she's the chair of the Elizabeth Casson Trust. So without any further ado, Dee, I'm going to launch straight in and ask you the first question. I mean, you've had a very successful career as an OT. What motivated you to find a mentor during that career?
Thanks, Caroline. I'm not sure if everybody can see me, but I hope you can at least hear me. It's an interesting question, and one I've reflected on quite a lot recently, because I'm foraying into a new mentoring relationship. I think if I think back, I've been lucky enough to have two mentors, one as part of a management program, and that helped me. It was part of the program, but it helped me understand what a mentor could offer. On the basis of this was somebody who could reflect back, who could guide, who could ask me some of those curved ball questions that sometimes you like to avoid when you're in difficult situations. That stood me in good stead for a period, probably 10 or even 12 years later, when I was doing a master's, a head of service, having lots of new things thrown at me and really, really struggling. And I remembered the impact of mentoring, so found a new mentor, somebody who wasn't an OT, but had had a very successful career in leadership roles. And it was light bulb stuff. It really was that opportunity. not yes, a learning situation, but a very, very reflective, comfortable conversation with another person who could share their journey with me, give me some hints and tips, but also really push me on some of those challenging things. To a certain extent, when I think about it now, she sort of helped me hold myself to account to do the things that I said I wanted to do, not in a an unpleasant way. And as I say, some light bulb opportunities came out of that for me. So I just think mentoring is the bee's knees, to be perfectly honest.
Well, that's certainly a very positive story. But I mean, you mentioned quite a lot of things there about, that your mentor was able to listen to you, to challenge. What do you think the core skills that a mentor needs to have are?
I think that word you just said, that listening ability, to not actually leap in and offer how I would do it sort of advice. I think that's a real skill, to actually share what you have been able to achieve, to maybe offer those as examples rather than the solution. I always felt my second mentor helped me get to the solution rather than anything. And she did listen very carefully, not least because she wasn't an OT. And although I was managing lots of non-OT services at that point, she really understood that the golden thread for me was being an OT. So that listening, and then, guiding, pushing, stepping outside of the pathway, stepping into challenging spaces, and encouraging me off to do things that I would never have dreamed of doing, saying, so why aren't you doing that? What's the problem here? What is it that's preventing you doing that? And owning up to, I was scared, I didn't know whether I had the skills to do that, I didn't know whether I had the ability to follow through on it. And it was just lovely to be supported in that way. So I think listening, being reflective, and then supporting, but the last bit, holding you to account, getting you to actually say, oh, do you know what, I didn't do it because of whatever.
So it sounds, Dee, that it's a really nice mixture of sufficient support, so really listening, but also some challenge, some going into kind of inquiry mode, helping you to clarify what it is you want to do, encouraging you to perhaps move out of your comfort zone to think about different ways of approaching things or challenges.
Yeah.
And how would you describe, perhaps, you've taken all of that in, it's really helped you, and now you're offering that to other people. How would you describe your particular mentoring style?
In some senses, I guess I have modelled that on my last relationship, where it became not an easy conversation, but a very familiar and relaxed conversation, but where I'm just thinking of my last relationship in this program with the mentee, where at the end she said, what's been so beneficial is you haven't stepped back from asking me again those challenging questions, and not that it's not about allowing you to skirt round it, because sometimes people just can't actually deal with that question, but not letting it slip and coming back. And I think that ability to listen carefully and understand when somebody's under pressure, and that maybe you need to go a bit more gently in that circumstance and say, well, let's deal with this time, but maybe in 2 sessions let's come back to this particular problem, and have another think about it. You go away and think about it, I'll think about it, and we'll come up with some ideas and some tools that maybe would help you approach that. So I do think about how you pace yourself, and I'd rather spread it a bit further in terms of timescales than rush to get it done in 6 sessions. That's not really how I see mentoring, but it also has to have an end point.
Yeah, and that very much chimes with my own experience, where sometimes I found it quite difficult to articulate what I was trying to get to, and my mentor was very good at not putting me under pressure, but also not letting me back away from the the question and just kind of encouraging me, even if my articulation wasn't perfect, just to keep trying to describe it, keep trying to imagine myself in that position and be able to describe it. And I think all of those skills that you've described there are absolutely critical to the mentoring relationship. And as you're saying there, I think the mentoring relationship, depending on what the mentee wants, that's why the first meeting where you're really talking about what the experience will be like is so important, because it sets the tone then. And I love that point you made there about, you know, let's not be too prescriptive, but let's be clear about this will have to come to an end at some point, and that point should be where the goals that you've talked about have been met. Thank you so much, Dee. That's fabulous. It's really interesting to get your perspective on it as both a mentee and a mentor. Thank you so much for that. And I'm sure there'll be lots of questions for you at the end.
Thanks, Caroline.
So, can we move on, please, to the next slide? This slide is a build slide. So basically what we're trying to do here is, you've heard that active listening is a really important component of making mentoring work. And from my own experience of being a mentor, I would say investing time up front, investing yourself into the relationship is really important. And in the first meeting with a new mentee, I always try to be in listening mode for about 80% of that first meeting, really giving the mentee you know, an opportunity to express themselves and explore in all its wonderful imperfection what it is they're trying to get towards. You know, and as a mentee, I think the thing I learned is that it's really important to be ready to tell my story. You know, to be able to, in some way, doesn't have to be perfectly formed yet, but to be able to share my goals. And contrary to popular myth, it's not the mentor's role to fix the mentee. It's a partnership. You're working together here to define what it is you want and what it is you're working towards. So the second thing I would ask mentors to think about, and mentees as well, actually, is finding your mentoring approach. There are no magic formulas. There are some models, but you know, each person needs to develop what is the best approach for them. For me, I find it, much as Dee described, actually, it's situational. Sometimes I have to be in real inquiry mode, really listening, just asking the odd question, little nudge here. Sometimes I have to be a bit more directive when perhaps somebody's narrative is a little bit off, where they're being too hard on themselves. I have to challenge in a little more of a directive way. But the best approach is developed between you. As a mentee, what is it you want to experience? Are you looking for somebody to explore with you, or are you looking for somebody to be a bit more directive? And as a mentor, I think you have to think about what your particular style is and how you adjust to it. And again, contrary to popular belief, you don't have to have similar experience. The mentor doesn't have to be more senior than the mentee. You just have to be able to develop an authentic dialogue and work together towards some agreed goals. If we look at the next area, I think this is something that Dee mentioned, and I've also found it really important. Don't be afraid as a mentor to reach out for ideas and solutions into your own network. I mean, you know, it may well really be beneficial for your mentee to get a different perspective on things. It might be great for that mentee to be introduced to some very different people. Other sources that you could help them with, connect them to, might be some reading that they could do, might be introducing them on LinkedIn, might be encouraging them to follow certain practices or certain individuals. This is all about helping people expand their horizons, create kind of new connections that give them a different perspective. And it's also really helpful when perhaps as a mentee you're coming to a relationship because you're feeling a bit stuck. And having extra perspectives, having extra connections can really help you innovate, rethink things through, maybe relearn. If you've been telling yourself you're not very good at something, actually, is that a good narrative? Is that right? It may just give you that opportunity to challenge. I think for me, this next item is incredibly important. Be you. Be really generous, be warm. Relationships can really fail or succeed on the frequency and nature of the contact. In that really important first meeting, explore what works, contract for it. You'll see Helen will talk about the guide a little bit, but it gives you some tips and in fact a form if you really want to be very clear about what that relationship is going to be. It tells you how to contract for that, and that's a little bit in that holding to account piece that Dee was also talking about. I think it's really important that as a mentor you're in the mentee's corner. You should make frequent contacts. It might be very casual, outside of what you agree as the particular set pieces, just to, you know, there's something that you spot and you think, gosh, I saw this, I thought it might spark something for you. Quick, easy comms that just take a few minutes can really help keep a relationship feeling warm and connected and beneficial. And as a mentee, I think you have to be clear about what works for you. What way do you like the interaction to be? Is that a helpful way? Or do you prefer just to have a set piece, maybe go away and work on the things you've talked about? And that's the way you like to work. So being really clear with your mentor, and it may emerge through the relationship. You'll have some months to get that right, to work it through. But just have that narrative, keep it going. Don't sit back as a mentee. The mentor is not there to direct your career. They're there to help you reflect, to review things, to plan, and yes, sometimes to hold you account, to take some action. So don't be passive in the relationship. It really should be an equal partnership. I think also being really warm. Relationships that are warm and purposeful are often much more trustful. And in my experience, the mentee-mentor relationship, you do talk about your dreams and your fears, and that's a very precious gift to give to somebody, and it should be part of a warm and trusting relationship. And I think as a mentor, I always feel that I have to earn the right to be able to give people feedback to help them see a new perspective, understand their own inner narrative, maybe challenge it, create a new story, help people really remain open to learning. And the great thing about being both mentee and mentor, I found that what I learn as a mentee, I also learn as a mentor, and it helps me grow, and vice versa. Some of the things that I've learned through mentoring people really help me in my day-to-day life, help me stop and reflect. So I think it is all about bringing your whole self and drawing on your whole life learning, you know, your resilience, your well-being, everything. The mentee wants to form a relationship with you, otherwise they wouldn't be in the program. And I think one of the things that's really important is, you know, do be you. There's no need to don a sort of persona of the perfect professional. You know, a little sharing and vulnerability on both sides can really build the relationship. And then finally, I think it is all about those touch points, agreeing what sort of contact you like, how often that might be, formal, informal, but really making sure that this is a continuous relationship that is forming and growing through the course of the time that you have together. And you decide, we've said, look, the programme runs for 6 months, but you decide whether you want to work together for the whole of that 6 months, for part of that 6 months, and in fact, whether you might want to continue afterwards for an agreed period. But throughout, keeping in touch, really important. So I hope that's helpful. We've tried to pull a lot of that into the Good Mentoring Guide, and I'm now going to hand over to Helen to give you a kind of quick overview of that guide.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So the ECT Good Mentoring Guide, everyone who participates in the programme will receive a copy. It's a little booklet produced specifically for ECT. How you engage with it is up to you. You can read it from cover to cover, or you can dip into it as and when you want to. Within the booklet, you'll hear lots of the themes that Caroline and that Dee have already talked to us about today. We'll talk about what mentoring is, and then be really clear about what it isn't as well. We'll focus on the benefits of mentoring, and that's for both mentors and mentees. If you're a mentor, you'll find some guidance in there, including some useful models and support and tips for that all-important first meeting. If you're a mentee, within the booklet, you'll find some useful models to help you to reflect on how you like to learn, and some tips for making the most of the mentoring relationship. Caroline has already mentioned, but there are some great case studies on ECT's mentoring website which illustrate how mentoring has worked for 6 of our previous programme participants. And they really highlight how they've made it their own. So there are some broad guidelines, but they have all worked with their mentors, and their mentees have worked together to work out exactly how they want it to be for them. And you can find those on ECT's website. So if we have a look onto the next slide then, please, Pam. Sounds very serious, doesn't it? Ground rules. So there aren't many rules, actually. It's actually quite an open programme, and you can make the arrangements that suit you to fit mentoring into your busy lives and your busy schedules. But we would really appreciate you contracting with us around the following key areas. So I think, first of all, it's about being realistic about your capacity to participate in Cohort 3. Now, I don't want to put you off, because the majority of people meet kind of maybe once every 2 months. But again, if you want to meet more regularly, you can, or if you want to meet less, you can. But it's about, I think, making sure that you are ready when you apply to commit to the next sort of 6 to 8 months with the programme. Sadly, not everyone will be matched this time. We tend to have more mentee applications than we have mentors for. We are working hard to build that mentor community. So we would say, if you don't get matched this time, please do apply again. If you find that your mentoring relationship just isn't working, if you're not gelling or you've lost touch with each other, drop us a note and let us know as soon as you can, because we can always rematch you, or we can have a chat with you individually, or the pair of you, to sort of try and help things get back on track. So do ask for help if you need it. We'd be really grateful if you would commit to providing us with feedback at the end of the programme. It's such a key resource for us. We are continually learning and growing programme. We need to understand, does it work for you? What went well? What can we do differently? So please do make sure that you fill out that feedback form at the end of July. And we would also say, just as a sort of top tip, but put the ECT mentoring email address into your contacts, because we do hear quite a lot that it goes into people's spam folders and they wonder why we haven't contacted them. So we'll share that email address with you at the end. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more practically in a moment about the programme and Cohort 3 and how it's going to work. But I'm just going to hand back to Caroline to talk about how to submit the very best applications to be a mentor or a mentee.
Thank you, Helen. So as I said earlier, submitting a strong profile is incredibly important, because this is all about, mentoring is all about getting a match that really works both for the mentor and the mentee. So the more insight we have into who you are and what it is that you want to get out of the relationship, the better that match can be, and the easier it is for us to get you what it is you need. I guess if you're a mentor, one of the things that we're really looking for is just a little bit about your experience as a mentor. Are you new to mentoring? Have you had some experience but perhaps don't feel like you're at that black belt level like Dee and Naomi are? Or have you been doing this for years and you're really comfortable to take on any kind of mentee? So I think asking yourself about that, giving us a little bit of background about that. Also, have you developed a particular mentoring style? Is your approach inquiry-based? Are you more directive? Or are you able to flow through styles as the situation dictates? So tell us a little bit about whether you have a preferred approach, because we know that sometimes mentors have a particular approach, and the mentees tell us that they would like someone, they feel that they've perhaps been avoiding asking themselves some questions, and they want somebody who might be a little bit stronger with them, a bit more directive. Others are perhaps thinking about whether they should make a transition from being a clinician to, for example, moving to academia, or they're perhaps thinking about setting up a new service, and they want somebody who's more inquiry based, who can kind of roll around in things with them. So again, it's important that we understand both from the mentor and the mentee what they imagine that they need from that. I think also it's really important for both mentee and mentor to think about what the objectives are. And for a mentor, what do you hope to get from the relationship? It could be that it's a completely altruistic thing. You're just really committed to furthering occupational therapy, and this is a way for you to proactively do something. Or it could be that this is just a very practical thing to hone your own skills, and that either is perfectly all right. But if we can understand a bit more of that, it will help us. And I think, what are you looking for in a mentee? Are you looking for someone who has a similar background, or someone who's from a totally different area of occupational therapy? Perhaps you're in the NHS, perhaps they're in private practice. Are you looking for somebody who's at a particular career stage? Lots of mentors will say to us, I'm really looking for someone who's perhaps just making their first career move after joining the OT profession. Or others are perhaps thinking, I'm thinking about working with somebody who's been in the profession for 20 years and wants to freshen up their career options or something like that. So give us some kind of idea about that. Also, do you want to work with somebody from a particular domain like academia or the private sector, or a speciality like older people or peds? Give us an idea. And we can't, obviously, this is an imperfect science, because we never know exactly what kind of mentees we're going to get apply. But wherever possible, if we have this kind of information, then we can try and get the best match for you. So we're always really happy when a mentor decides that they can take on more than one mentee. So do tell us what you've got time for. Is that one or more mentees? Take your time completing the application form. Be open, be clear and succinct if possible. But just really think about it. Take your time. Give us as much information as possible. The form's dead easy. It's online on the Elizabeth Casson Trust, and there is a link that you can get to it really, really easily. Again, we've got a little bit of time at the end to ask any questions that you may have about that, and I'd really encourage you to make most of that opportunity. So if then we turn to the mentees, I think there are lots of things that you need to think about. I mean, obviously, why do you want to mentor? What's the goal that you're trying to achieve here? Do you understand your learning preference? In what environment do you learn the most? Are you clear about the goals that you have for the mentoring relationship and for life and career? Or is it that you want some help in informing those goals? Because often the mentoring relationship can start at that point. So really think about what it is that you want. Think about, you know, what's your expectation? How will the mentor help? What is it that you need from them? So think about how you can get that across to us in your application. And tell us what style of mentorship would help you the most. As I say, some people, I found personally that I have really benefited from an inquiry model, because sometimes the perfect story that I have in my head doesn't quite translate when I try to tell somebody. So having somebody kind of just gently help me tease that out has been really helpful for me. But there's also been times in my life when basically I've been prevaricating, and having somebody really hold me to account about having the courage to take that next step's been equally important. So be clear about the impact, the outcome that you would like. And remember that the outcome isn't necessarily your end goal. It's not necessarily that promotion. It might be about knowing what sort of promotion you want. It might be about feeling confident to go for it. It might be about having rewritten the story, your inner narrative about how you get there. So just think about what the impact you're looking for is and what the outcome of that from the mentoring relationship might be. And again, same thing, apply online, tell us as much as you can, and take your time to fill it out, be thoughtful about it. So if we just move on now, we're really excited to announce that we're actually launching for the first time a mentoring circle. It's a new addition to the Elizabeth Casson Trust mentoring service. And here goes another myth, actually, because mentoring circles are real evidence that mentoring isn't always done in a one-to-one environment. In a mentoring circle, mentoring is provided via a facilitated peer-to-peer support group. It's for people with a shared characteristic or interest. The group format really helps people interact at their own pace, and it's a source of mutual support, conversations, and practical solutions. As someone who's campaigned for carers' rights for, oh gosh, more years than I'd care to remember, but at least 30, and who has caring responsibilities myself, I hope that I can facilitate this circle to reflect carers' true experiences and help them set new aspirations. We've heard from OTs who are carers that they have a particular challenge, a particular issue balancing career and career aspirations with their caring responsibilities, and that it's not always easy for them to enter into a one-on-one relationship. So we're trying to really use this as an opportunity to hear from carers, but also to help them build more confidence and find new ways to move forward. I think one of the things that we heard very loudly from talking to carers who are OTs is that there's a little bit of a myth out there that it's, you know, if you're a carer, you have to have low expectations for yourself. We don't believe that's true. We believe this is a way that we can help people really learn and progress in their careers whilst also balancing those caring needs. We're looking for up to 12 caring OTs to join us. Remember that when you would apply as a mentee, normally fill out the form, but just remember to tick the carers box. And really, I'm hoping that we can, don't hesitate to apply. I'm hoping that we can get a good group of people, that we can really work this through, and then that we can create something that is really helpful for people who perhaps are struggling with both those roles. So I really encourage you to apply if you are an OT who is also a carer. Thank you. So I'm going to hand back over to Helen to talk to you about some of those practicalities.
Thank you, Caroline. So Cohort 3 timeline, the application deadline is the 1st of December 2022. So if you want to opt in to be part of Cohort 3, then please fill out the application process on ECT's website and make sure that we have your information by the 1st of December. The way that the matching works is that you are hand matched by the one and only Caroline Waters, and it's been an incredibly successful process in the past. But that is based, as Caroline says, on exactly the information that you give us. So we will go through the provisional matching, and we will aim to let our mentors know their shortlist of mentees. And if you've opted in to be a mentor, then you can have a look at the mentees that we'd recommend for you, and you can confirm your selection. And ideally, depending on how quickly we get our responses back, we will be able to introduce you mentors and mentees via an introductory email on or around the 15th of December. Now, any people that we don't match by then, it will go into the Christmas period, and then we will come back and finish off that matching. So if you haven't heard, don't worry, we are still in the process of doing that. So the mentoring proper, if you like, the relationship between the mentor and the mentee, that will run for 6 months. Now, that's our recommendation. As Dee said earlier, sometimes she would like to carry on. Sometimes relationships run shorter because they're very specific. But we will be running the Cohort 3 from 1st of January to the 30th of June. And then in July, we will write to you for that all-important feedback. Please, please, please do let us have your feedback. And following that, we will do some evaluation and report back to the ECT board on the success of the programme and any recommendations for change. Anything I've missed there? No, good. Okay, so click on to the next slide for me, please, Pam. Thank you. Brilliant. In addition to the booklet that we send out at the beginning, we host monthly drop-in surgeries for mentors. So these take place via Zoom. They are entirely optional, but you're welcome to drop in and listen, or to come to us with an issue or a query. They're based around sort of group learning and problem solving. They are entirely confidential, and for this reason, they're not recorded. Now, sadly, there is no perfect time of day to hold this to meet the needs of all the people all the time. But we have found that this time is working well for most people. If it doesn't work for you, we're really sorry. We can chat with you one-to-one at any point. So you just reach out to us via the mentoring email there on the slide, and we can arrange a one-to-one chat for you. So if you want to be a mentor, then do please pop these dates into your diary and do try and join us if you can. For mentees, we click on to the next slide, please, Pam. We also run, in addition to the support that you'll get from your mentors, monthly personal development sessions for mentees. Again, these are entirely optional, but they have been designed to address some of the common themes that our mentees raise in the application process. And they should help you get the most from the mentoring opportunity. So Caroline will host each of these webinars, and we will talk about some of these key themes. So reflective learning, storytelling, how we tell our story of our career, how we build our confidence and our personal power, thinking about our community and who's in it and how we build it, and then some tips for dealing with difficult conversations. Now, these are designed as lunchtime sessions, so obviously feel free to bring your lunch again. They are confidential, and so they won't be recorded. So people can speak very, very freely. I appreciate again that the times will not be perfect for everyone, but the learning from the previous cohort suggests that this is the best time for most. If you get we send out little documents that talk about each of these themes, and if you get one of them and you think, oh, I'd just love to talk to Caroline about this or Helen about this, then again, please reach out via the ECT's mentoring email, and we would be really happy to have a one-to-one chat with you if you're not able to get to the sessions. So I'm going to hand back now to Caroline to launch our Q&A panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. And I would just really add that Helen and I are here for you as a mentor, as a mentee. You know, so don't worry about something. Reach out. Between us, we feel like we've got about 100 years experience, so nothing's going to surprise us. And you know, we've got great depth in Dee and Naomi also to draw on. So you know, if anything doesn't feel like it's working, or you're worried about something, or you just have a question, or you might want to say, has anybody ever come across this? Please reach out to us. You know, we really do want to help as much as we can and make sure that everybody has a great experience and a learning experience too. So I think there may be just one question. Yeah, so the question here is from Heidi, who says, can OTs who are not currently practicing in the UK apply? I'm a member of RCOT, but after 9 years in the NHS, I have relocated, but am still practicing. Naomi, do you want to answer that one?
Well, that's a really interesting one, actually. I mean, I personally would say, why not? Because we do have the technology in order to do virtual mentoring. So yeah, great. And I think what will be very interesting is you bringing issues, Heidi, that perhaps you're experiencing from being in a different environment. Some of you may know I'm very involved with European occupational therapy through COTEC. So I'm all in favour of us keeping our links with our European colleagues. So yeah, I don't see why not put in the application. We can't guarantee a match at this point, but yeah, I think that would be very exciting personally.
Fabulous. Dee, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
No, just to say absolutely, Naomi, I couldn't agree more. Another opportunity.
Yeah, fabulous. And I think, you know, also that would apply to people who might be overseas but want to mentor as well. You know,
Absolutely.
Yeah, you know, we quite naturally conduct a lot of the interactions online, so I think it's all possible, isn't it? And as you said, Naomi, it's great to get those different perspectives and experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah, fabulous.
Yeah.
I think we have another question. This is from Annabelle. Do you think it's important for your mentor to have the same specialist skills as you? No. We're all shaking our heads. Naomi.
Yeah, I was just going to say just a couple of. I think we've had such a good introduction there from Caroline, Helen, and Dee, giving of their experience. But there were a couple of things I just would like to add. Is that, you know, I think for people thinking about mentoring, please remember how well this sits with your occupational therapy skill set. I know we're all very good at saying, oh, I couldn't possibly do that, I don't have enough to give, and all of that. Put that aside and just remember how good we are at working with people and not telling people what to do or doing it for them. We're very good at facilitating people to do things for themselves, and I think that is a good start for thinking about being a mentor. And the other thing is, as a mentee, this is a real opportunity to engage in in exploration of who you are professionally and where you're going, that sits outside the performance management arena. And we don't often have that opportunity to just take the time out that we don't feel is going to affect our career at work or be shared in some way about, as a management tool. So just remember that how important that actually is. And I've forgotten what the question was now, so you'll have to remind me. Not very good mentoring skills there.
Well, you've actually answered the question because it was, do you think it's important for your mentor to have the same specialist skills as you?
No, I just to say categorically no. And in fact, sometimes it's more beneficial if you are paired with someone who has very different skills. And I can see Dee's wanting to get her on there.
Well, just to reinforce that and to say in my last arrangement, I had no clinical expertise in the area of practice that the person was coming from, but that wasn't the point really. We were doing things beyond that, and actually I think the person concerned realised actually that it helped her think outside the box in a different way, not getting drowned in the clinical area of practice was actually really beneficial at that time. So I completely concur, it doesn't matter. And whilst we're wanting to grow a cohort of mentors who are OTs, because Naomi put it so well, our skills are so transferable sometimes, and in different circumstances, it doesn't have to be an OT either. We're not going down that road at the moment because we think that OTs really need their confidence and for us to really flag their abilities as mentors. And it's been great to see how many people have signed up as mentors for the previous 2 cohorts. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
We have another question here from Den. Will you try, and perhaps this one's for me actually, now I read it, will you try to match to a mentor who has more experience than the mentee? How do you judge that? Is it years or achievements or bandings? Well, the answer is yes, we normally try to match, but it's not a linear thing. So you may have less time served, but you may have done, made more transitions, or you may have had more experience in a particular area. So we're kind of just really trying to get underneath what it is that the mentor has to offer and what it is the mentee's asking for. So we do look at years of experience, we do look at bandings, and in fact, past experience of mentoring, some mentors will say, I'm really interested in somebody who's a band 5 just thinking about going to a band 6. So if there are specific requirements, we will look at that. But generally, it's a quite intuitive thing about really looking quite deeply at what the mentee wants. And then almost regardless of the number of years in the role or the grade, just looking at, has the mentor had that kind of experience? Have they been challenged by that? And then putting them together. So it is a kind of mix of all of those things. And Helen was trying to get me to explain what matching is. It's really difficult. I'm afraid it's a bit of a black art, really. You do it because you've been doing it for years, but being able to actually describe step by step what you do is quite an art. The next thing we have here is a lovely quote. I don't have a name actually, but it's a lovely quote from a mentor.
From Sarah.
Sarah, okay. What she says, it's not really a question, but just to say, I've been involved in the last 2 rounds of the mentor scheme as a mentor, having never mentored officially before. I have really enjoyed it. I've learned so much about myself and agree with Naomi about appreciating the skills you bring as an occupational therapist. If you are apprehensive, know that you have great support around you. Thank you so much, Sarah. That's brilliant. And I hope people do take that on board. If you think you can do it, don't rule yourself out. If you think you would benefit from mentoring as a mentee, apply. And, as we said, there are lots of things. We try and provide as many resources as we can to help. And on a personal level, we're really happy to chat things through with people. And as I say, over the years, I don't think there's anything that I haven't encountered or that would surprise me. And in the last two cohorts, it's been great, both in the mental surgery and on a one-to-one level, just to see how things feel so much better once you've shared it and you've talked it through. And there are often lots of different solutions. In fact, the mentoring surgery really became very, very good at sharing practice and sharing what had worked. And Helen and I could almost sit back, and the mentors were solving the problems for themselves and for each other just by having that opportunity to chat. So thank you very much, Sarah. And yes, we hope that there really is a great deal of support there for you. So do apply. I think we have any further questions at the moment.
Can I just take a moment just to remind our mentors, if you've mentored for us before, we would like you please to reapply for cohort 3, just because we want to have the most up-to-date information and for you to kind of actively express a wish to participate in this cohort. So Sarah and gang, I would love to have you on board again for cohort 3. So please do apply via the link that we've shared.
Yes, that's a great reminder, actually. We're building a really strong and very varied mentor community, and we'd really like to continue to do that. And that means taking some of the fabulous mentors that we've had with us over the last 2 cohorts with us, but also really encouraging people who are perhaps thinking about it but are a little bit nervous to apply.
Oh, yeah, can I just add to that? We love having our mentees become mentors, and we have seen a big move for people saying, oh great, I enjoyed this, I got something out of it, I'm going to have a go. We've seen quite a proportion of people successfully offer. So please remember, if you've been part of us as a mentee, we really would welcome you as a mentor as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more, Naomi. A great point. From our first cohort, we had over 40 mentees say they would like to become a mentor. Almost, I think about half of them were deployed in the second cohort and did a tremendous job. We had great feedback about them, and some others who said that they would like to become a mentor, but the timing wasn't just right. We're hoping that the timing is right for you now, and that you might come on board. And I think this is where we really see the profession developing itself and building the capacity to keep doing that. And again, I've been in this situation myself where I have been being mentored, because I've perhaps been, just promoted, but I've also been mentoring. And so to get this kind of continuous development, continuous investment in ourselves and in the profession, we really want people to stay a part of the community and continue to work towards it. Well, I don't think we have any further questions. So I think, any final words from you, Dee or Naomi?
No, we've
go on, Naomi, you go first.
So just to say, we've got the contact in the chat, our contact email. So do get in touch. And any questions, anything you just want to check out, please do just get in touch, and somebody will have an answer or be able to talk through with you what the issue is.
Yeah. No, just to say, it's lovely to see that there were 25 plus people here today who are interested, who are keen to join the community, some of who have been part of our community in the past and maybe are thinking about going from mentee to mentor, but it seems like this is such a much needed way of developing, learning, supporting go for it. You know, don't step back from it. As Caroline said, you know, sometimes these things can be a bit scary, but actually if you thought about it and think, I really like what I've heard, then get that form in, and Caroline will match you hopefully, and your strength to strength. It's such a great opportunity. So good luck, everyone.
Yes, good luck, everyone. Thank you for coming along today. We will be recording this and hoping that we can grow that community. So as Dee said, do please apply. We need everybody. Oh, I think we may have another question, actually, if we just have a minute. Let me see. This is just a slight problem with the chat, I think. Actually, the questions have been in the Q&A section, so you may just find them there, but hopefully you've heard the answers. So thank you very much, everybody. We hope to see more of you. We hope to get to know you, and we hope to make this third cohort even better than the last two. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye from all of us.